what it really means to live life golden.
Sweetheart, are we offending you?
Yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden. They're about to see us shine, cause we're golden. They can't ever break us down, cause we're golden. They're about to see us glow, cause we're golden. Yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden.
All right, welcome back to the Leisure House podcast. We have senior right-handed pitcher Zach Hise from Joliet, Illinois, Chicago.
Hello, how's it going?
So we're going to talk about Zach and his long journey. He's gone through injuries. He's gone to multiple colleges. So we're going to start off right off the bat talking about your high school experience. So we have a lot of people that are watching that are high schoolers or maybe young college players, and I think it's important to touch on your journey and how you were able to get to where you are today.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about a lot of the stuff that you had to do to get to Kentucky. But let's start off like growing up in Chicago or Joliet, which is 45 minutes outside.
45 minutes probably, yeah.
Yeah. So growing up in Joliet, what it was like going to what high school?
Joliet Catholic.
Joliet Catholic. So walk us through your freshman year to your senior year.
Yeah, so freshman year, it started off, I was a catcher actually. Never got on the mound. Every once in a while, whenever we needed arms in travel baseball, had a good arm, so just get on the bump and start throwing hard. I was like, all right, sounds good. Mainly just catching, and I started going to like camps, getting invited to camps. I don't really know if anything was ever going to come out of it or anything like that as a catcher. And my high school pitching coach actually came and talked to me because I threw a couple bullpens after I'd be done catching bullpens, and he was like, hey, like, you're a really good catcher, don't get me wrong, but like with your arm talent, you're going to go a lot further pitching. And I was like, you know what, like I'm kind of starting to enjoy pitching more than catching out anyways. Like all these kids are starting to throw hard, but they don't really know where it's going, so it's not really fun sitting back there and just getting beat up as a catcher. But so everything worked out that way.
Yeah.
And then freshman year, I just stayed on freshman. Didn't get called up. Went to a school with a lot of big-time guys. So like, I think my freshman year, we had 13 Division I commits on the varsity team. So like, threw hard already, but I didn't really know what I was doing pitching. Really, it was kind of just God-given ability at that point. I really hadn't developed much. I just threw it as hard as I could, and where it went, it went. And freshman year, you kind of got away with it. If you had velo, you got away with it, and you could a little off-speed throw in there, it worked. So freshman year, sent in freshman, and then sophomore year, I started off on sophomores actually, and got called up to varsity. And I didn't tell anybody on my team that I got called up. So they had a game, and they were on the bus ride to their game, and they're like, wait, Hise isn't with us. Like, where is he? And I get out of class later, because I got out of class early to go to this, and had like 25 missed calls, everything. And they're like, you missed the bus. And I was like, nah, I got called to varsity. I'm going to varsity today. And they're like, oh, sounds good. Like, congrats, good luck. So
it's like getting called to the big leagues.
It really was.
And like, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, in high school it really is like the big leagues getting called up.
Yeah, and so that when you went to varsity, were you just pitching or catching?
Yeah,
too?
I was still just pitching at that point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I originally was going to be both ways, but when I called the varsity, it was like, hey, you're a pitcher now.
And then were you solidified on the varsity team after that?
I wasn't. I actually was getting called up because there was a bunch of rain delays, so they just needed an extra arm. And we had a guy starting that day. It was in conference play for high school, and our guy that was starting that day was committed to Minnesota. He's still at Minnesota now. And he kind of got hit around a little bit early on, and we were down like, I think it was 8-0 or something like that. Yeah. And they were like, all right, it's your time to go. And I kind of went in there, and I threw, and I ended up going like 5 innings, no runs. We came back, and it beat him like 11-8 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then at that point, they had a jersey. Everyone had their last names on and stuff. I didn't have my last name on it. And then about probably 24 hours later, head coach of varsity called in his office, and he was like, hey, we're going to get you a jersey. You're on the varsity for good now. And I ended up starting a week later for another conference game on the road. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's an interesting story, because I feel like that happens a lot for a lot of high schoolers. They get called up, and they could either go both ways. Like, you do really well, like you did, and you solidify, get your jersey. Yeah. Or you could have a bad game, and then they're like, all right, like maybe you're not ready yet. So, like going into it, what were you feeling, and how did you prepare to pitch varsity?
Yeah, I mean, I try to not change anything really. Kind of just do what I usually do and stay with what was working. What got me there, like why they were calling me up, was because I had been throwing well, and just didn't really try to overthink it, honestly. I remember in the bullpen, obviously your first three are shaking a little bit. You're like, oh, you're all excited and stuff, but just adrenaline. And once you get out there, it's the same thing. So went out there, did really well. So
Yeah.
ended up going really well.
I feel like a lot of like high school kids, they kind of overthink it, and they get that call, and they kind of like, I need to do something different.
Yeah.
Try to change everything that from what they've been doing that works.
Yeah.
And they try to do more, and that's
Yeah.
where they fall into trouble.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, I think that's a good point, being able to just keep doing what you're doing, because that's what got you there in the first place. So
Yeah.
just being able to be in that moment, take deep breaths, and just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and
So,
there was two things that really helped also with there was like a bunch of the guys on that team I had worked out with all fall of high school. Like we worked out freshman, sophomore, varsity. They all worked out together because no one knew who was on the team yet. So we'd all work out together. So I got to know a bunch of the guys through there. So I was already comfortable with everybody. It wasn't just like walking in like, oh, hey, I'm Zach. So everyone knew me from workouts earlier in the fall. And then I'd also played with a couple guys. When you actually played with Zach Gould. I played with him on 12U travel baseball. And there was a couple other guys on that same team that were also on the high school team. So I knew them and had played with them. And then,
So was he on that varsity team?
Yeah,
when you
he
got
was.
called up?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And what was he, just a PO at the time, or?
He was a PO at that point. I think he was 2A all the way up until varsity. So
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was pitcher only.
I mean, those of you that don't know Zach Gould, we played at UIC together, and I've seen that guy swing the bat, and he's got a nice swing.
He does.
He had a lefty swing, and I was like, dang, that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
But he's not an athlete. Sorry, Zach. So when you got that solidified role, like you just kept doing what you're doing, and you weren't committed to a school yet. So what was the next step for you? How were you gonna get to a Division I?
At that point, I'd already kind of like started talking Division Ones. Just like I said, I kind of naturally threw hard as high school. So like I already had a bunch of schools reaching out just because of just velo. Honestly, it wasn't stuff or anything else besides that. And it was kind of funny, actually. My next outing, I told you I stayed there, solidified the spot, and I ended up starting against a school called Marist, which is like one of the top schools.
We played them last year at opener at SC.
Marist?
Oh wait,
I'm talking high school. Yeah.
Oh
There probably is a college.
There
though.
is a college. Is that in New York too, or?
No, it's in Illinois.
Oh,
it's in our conference, but I didn't know. Like this is the good part about being young and not knowing all about like commitments and stuff. I went out there and just did what I did. After the game, I remember I went like 7 innings. Like I let an absolute bomb to this Arkansas commit that I had no idea at the time he was committed to Arkansas though. But I went like 7 innings, 1 run, and it was on an absolute nuke. I think the first home run I ever let up. And after the game, PBR was like all over it. It was like sophomore Zach Hise pitches 7 innings against this team, and I was like, I didn't know it was a big deal. And I looked up, and they had like an Illinois commit, an Arkansas commit, like just like top to bottom, big commits. And that's kind of where it first started, because then PBR posted it, and obviously like it's just like a little platform that builds from there. So that's kind of where it all started, right there. Yeah.
I feel like that's like the best, when you don't know that you are pitching against a good team, and then you just go out and you're like not trying to do too much. You're just like, it's just my thing. Like you just pitched, and good things happen. And those PBR things can kind of get in your head, I think, if you like focus in on it and you're like, I need to pitch good, or else I'm not going to get looked at. So I think like being able to just like who cares? Like at the end of the day, it's like who cares? Like you can still, there's other ways to like find, get noticed by colleges. But like for you, it worked out that you pitched well, and you weren't trying to be like, oh, this guy's an Arkansas guy.
Yeah,
like,
I had no
you're just
idea.
like, I'm just going to pitch to him because I'm good. So that's pretty cool. So how was Mizzou the first one that reached out to you, or were there other schools as well?
No, there was other schools first. I kind of started with smaller schools, and then started talking to a couple bigger. So my dream school is, let's go to Kentucky now, but Louisville at the time was one of my big schools I wanted to go to, because a bunch of my buddies, Napchek was their shortstop there the last couple of years. He was one of my best friends in high school, went to high school with him and everything. And I wanted to go to Louisville really bad.
Yeah.
And my coach reached out to him and talked to him on the phone a couple times, whatever. And then there was a couple other bigger schools I was talking to and was like really interested in going to and stuff. And I actually ended up having stress fractures in my lower back because I was growing so fast, pitching, whatever. And I remember I used to make a start, and after the start, I couldn't walk the next day. I was literally like bent over backwards, like trying to get to the sink just to like wake up in the morning. And I pitched the rest of the year with it like that. Like being younger, you recover well. So by the time it was next time to pitch, your back felt good. But then as soon as the game was over, it was like, it's bad.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting the stress fracture in my back. So then all those bigger schools kind of went away. And when I came back from that, they all came back, but then they didn't have money left and stuff. That was my junior year. And then Missouri was the first SEC, so I wanted to go to an SEC school mainly. Besides a couple here and there school, I wanted to go to an SEC school, and they were one of the first schools after my back that they came in and they had money still left over. Yeah. So I went and took a visit and loved the coaches and everything. So
let's backtrack before. If you guys don't know, the rivalry between Kentucky and Louisville is just as big, or probably bigger than the USC-UCLA rivalry. So it's funny that his dream school was Louisville, and now he's at Kentucky. So he's at the better Kentucky school. So
yeah, absolutely.
Happy to have him here. For sure. Right. So you talked about your back stress fracture injury, and I know that we talked about your labrum injury, right? So when you got to Mizzou, you went through your freshman year and you were healthy? Yeah,
I went through my whole freshman year. I started off as the closer the first few weeks. And I remember I threw probably 4 times in 7 days I was closing. And I had never had arm soreness in my entire life. And by the end of that one, I was like, wow, my arm's starting to feel like this is getting bad. And then we were in the Frisco Classic in Texas for a little classic. And I was supposed to be shut down that day, the first game, because I'd thrown so much. And we were actually up 3-1 going in the 8th, and we brought in one of our other freshmen, lefty, who was pitching really well. And then in the 9th inning, I believe it was, he started getting hit around a little bit. And they were like, Hise, go down to the bullpen, just start getting your arm moving, don't throw yet, you're not hot today, we know that, but just in case, we might use you. And within 15 seconds of me being down there, called down, get Hise hot.
Oh, yeah.
Threw 3 pitches. Yeah.
That's always how it goes.
Threw 3 pitches. In the bullpen, I hadn't even done bands or anything. I hadn't stayed warm all game because I didn't know I was going to be hot. And they're like, you're in. And I was like, I'm in? Went out there, I was 84, 86, I think. I was like, my arm is hurting.
Oh, man.
And then 2 days later, I was hot again against Arizona. And our starter went an inning and 2/3. And they're like, go down there and get hot. And I was like, okay. And then I ended up going I went an inning, 2/3. I closed that, finished that inning, went one more. I came off. My coach looked at me. He goes, your arm getting tired? And I was like, it's pretty tired. And he's like, well, congrats. You earned yourself a start next week. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good to me. And but then the bad thing about that was it was a classic. So that game was on, I think, a Tuesday.
So you were starting that.
And I was starting on a Saturday. So I only had 4 days rest to make a start.
Yeah.
And that was our last non-conference game before SEC play started. And our first SEC was actually here. So my first SEC start or inning was at Kentucky before I knew I was going to be here.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think getting that call, because you were a closer, right? And going from that closer role to a starter role within 4 days ain't easy.
No, not at all.
I mean, you can talk about that's not that hard. He's just throwing longer. It's a complete mental change, I think.
Yeah.
And knowing that and being able to kind of take control and be like, yeah, all right, I'll do it. And then, I'm sure you threw well.
Yeah, I took it and ran with it the rest of the year. I ended up starting, so.
And so, being able to adjust and, take off with it is really, that guy, he's a starter.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that, oh, wow. I think there's a lot of guys that would get that opportunity and kind of, it's just not for them.
Yeah.
And, that's who you are now. You're a starter.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool that from that moment, your arm's hurting.
Yeah.
You don't even, you weren't even, supposed to pitch, but, being able to, pitch when they needed you, that's how the coach was able to decide. You're a starter.
Yeah.
So, being that dog, that earned you
dog
that spot. Yeah. That's pretty cool. So, you pitched the rest of the year as a starter. So, your sophomore year. Is that when the injury happened?
Happened actually 2 weeks after the season ended. Went to summer ball and was at the beach, and we were supposed to go on jet skis and stuff. I texted my parents hey, we're gonna go to the jet skis, and they're like, hey, be careful. There's a lot of shoulder injuries, stuff like that on jet skis. Be smart. And I'm like, yeah, we'll do. Yeah, whatever, I will. And then we ended up going jet skiing and stuff like that. And we got there, and probably 10 minutes in, they all went to we were in this little random lake in Virginia, Pulaski, Virginia, small little town. And they all went to the diving board and stuff like that. And it's kind of embarrassing to admit, but I can't really swim very well.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not going out there. And I was sitting 1 foot of water with my pitching analytics guy from that summer ball, and one of my teammates from summer ball, tackled me behind and landed on my arm weird and dislocated my shoulder. And then got back to the hotel. Everything felt pretty good though. Like it was way out. Like it was out for a while too. But everything felt good once I got back in and was like hanging out at the hotel, whatever. And I was talking to my parents about it, and they're like, "You probably tell the trainers just get checked out, see what's going on." And I was like, "All right, we'll do." So I texted the trainer, and she's like, "Okay, we're gonna go to the ER." And I was like, "We're going to the ER? Like, I don't think it's that serious. It feels pretty good right now."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, we should go to the ER." And I was like, "All right." So I go to the ER. It's a small town. Get there, and then we'll take a couple X-rays of it. Took a couple X-rays of it, and like everything looks good. Like, let me do some strength tests. Strength tests went well. They're like, give it 2 weeks, strengthen it up, tighten it up, and you'll be good to go. And I was like, all right, perfect, sounds good. And then I was on the bus the next day about to leave for an away trip for summer ball. And my head coach, who like had been he had been like scouting or coaching in pro ball for a while. He was like, "Hey, like usually with like shoulders popping out, like something happens, like we should probably get checked out. There's no point of risking it." He's like, "We're gonna send you back to Missouri, or you can at least ask Missouri what they want to do with you." He's like, "So we're gonna send you back home." And I was like, "All right, sounds good." So then I drove home that day, 14 hours.
14
hours.
Oh man.
Kind of found out my shoulder was still out of place a little bit, not fully, but a little bit. And got home at like 1 o'clock. And I remember it was the first time I cried in front of my dad. I walked in the front door, and I just kind of was just like, man, like I might have messed up, or not. I didn't mess up. It's just like an unfortunate event. It was like I'm stressful. That whole car ride, all I could think about was like, what if I did hurt my arm?
Yeah.
And then called my trainer in the morning, and he was like, "Yeah, you're gonna come down for an MRI tomorrow." So I drove all the way to Missouri, which was another 6-hour drive. Wow. And then I drove to Missouri, got the MRI, and came back that I did mess up my labrum a little bit.
So like when you landed, it just like the dislocation pulled the labrum, or how did they explain that?
I think it's something to do with like the labrum that protects the shoulder, so like when it pops out, it like tears the labrum off.
So it just completely tore, or just like a partial?
Partial. It was 80%, something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you find out that type of news, like what's the first thing that goes through your head?
First thing was, man, I'll be back in a year. It's fine. It's just an injury. Like I never had one, so I don't know what they're like.
Yeah.
Like I was blessed to have health all up until that point.
Yeah.
And I just remember I called my mom and dad first, and I go, "All right, we'll get through it. Like don't worry." And I had surgery scheduled for 4 days after that. Like I literally had surgery 5 days after I technically had it popped out. Yeah. And called my sister because she had a history with injuries and stuff. Mm-hmm. So talked to her, and she was like, "Don't worry, like you're gonna be fine, whatever." And that's kind of happened. Got surgery 4 days later, and they kind of told me like, "Hey, it was a lot worse than we thought it was. Like, it's gonna be hard coming back from this injury. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, shoulders are a difficult surgery to come back from, and yours was an extreme injury. Like, it's gonna take a lot of work, and the odds are against you, but it's possible if you put the work in and a little bit of luck. I mean, a little bit of luck is needed. Oh yeah. And I was blessed to have a lot of people that knew what they were doing. I had a really good surgeon and did a really good surgery, and I ran into a couple different therapy people that really helped me out. Yeah. And back to where I am.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, so we talked a little earlier about your sister, and she's the oldest of 3 in your family.
Middle child.
She's the middle child.
Yes.
Of 3, you're the youngest. Yeah. And you said that she went through a really tough time from the beginning of her life. Yeah. And still went through multiple injuries throughout her life, and was able to kind of get by those. And you said she was like a big part of the reason why you were able to get through it. So talk to us a little bit about her journey and how it kind of like kept you to keep pushing through yours. Yeah,
for sure. She was my backbone throughout the whole thing, honestly. I don't think I would have made it through the recovery process and all that stuff without her. Mm-hmm. But so she was born with pulmonary atresia, which is a heart defect that, like, I don't know exactly what it is, something to do with the valve or something like that. So she came out, and they instantly took her out of my mom's hands and airlifted her to the nearest like hospital to do instant open heart surgery on her. So she had like, I think it was 6 open heart surgeries in the first 3 months of her life. And first couple of years of her life obviously weren't normal even after that, but like she made it through that, survived, whatever. And they like, with something like serious like that, like there's a lot of things that go wrong. You could have a lot of problems with the brain, with the oxygen. They had to like cut off oxygen to her brain a couple times during the surgeries and stuff like that. And at that young age, you don't recover that well. Yeah. So, but she ended up doing really well with all that stuff. And then in high school, she had a stroke. Or I think it was her junior year of high school. And I remember I was in grade school at the time, and my principal called me down to the office and was like, "Hey, like your parents called in. They're going to come get you in like 20 minutes. Your sister passed out in class. She's in the hospital right now." And my heart just dropped like instantly. I was like, I instantly thought it was something to do with her heart. I'm only like 13, 14 years old at the time, so like I was instantly panicking. And they ended up driving me up to my brother's college at the time. He went to North Central, played football there. And I hung out with him and his roommates for like a day or something like that. And my parents were at the hospital with my sister and stuff. And then come to find out she had a stroke. So her stroke, they told her she was like the youngest person to ever have this type of stroke she had. Wow. And then the other crazy part about it was usually with strokes, it's like a one side of the brain. It's not both sides, and hers was both sides of the brain. So they told her, they told us, like, hey, there's a chance she'll never talk again, like, never be able to walk again, like, never go back to normal, like, memory loss, all this stuff. And she ended up being in the hospital for like a week or something like that. I'd go visit her once every like 2 days with my dad. And they tried to keep me away from all the serious stuff, all the testing and stuff like that, so they wouldn't panic me. And she ended up getting out of the hospital a week later, and then I think it was 2 or 3 weeks later, she ended up playing volleyball again. She played at Sports Performance, like a bigger club volleyball program in Illinois. And she was playing there, and she'd already been talking to schools and stuff, and she had a couple schools there that watched her and ended up reaching out. I think it was like Ole Miss, West Virginia, Florida Atlantic, where she ended up going to play volleyball. Mm-hmm. And that's 2 weeks after having a stroke that possibly could have changed everything. And she ended up doing really well and ended up getting an offer to Florida Atlantic for volleyball. And she went there and
that's awesome.
Got there, and then life just kept kicking her. And third week there probably, she just went for a spike and came down and dislocated her knee and tore everything in there, ACL, MCL, meniscus, everything. Wow. So they got surgery after that, came back through all that, took a year to come back from that, and she got back, tore her MCL again. So she played through that for a year, got the surgery, and I think she came back for 1 more year. And then she finally was just like, I've had enough. Like, I got my degree, and I've proven to myself that I can get through these things. I've learned a bunch of things. And now she does pharmaceutical sales in Georgia. So, yeah, she's doing really well.
That's awesome.
And so for me, back to me, she was huge for me. Just like the mental things that you don't really know you're going to go through injuries, the constant up and down. Like you'll finally have a breakthrough day where you're just like, oh, it feels finally normal again, or what you think's normal for the time being. And you're like, it feels great. And then the next day you wake up and you try to do the same thing you did the day before that, and it feels horrible. You can't move, and you're just like, dude, like I'm never going to come back from this. Like it doesn't feel right. I can barely even lift my arm above my head. Yeah. So I'd always call her, and she was a huge backbone for me. Like I don't think I honestly give her enough appreciation. Like I've never showed her as much as she deserves for it, but like I would call her, I honestly think, every single day for probably 6 months, and she would always pick up, friendly as can be, give me confidence, like I can get through it, and to remind me of like why it's worth going through all these things to get back to where I want to be. And I remember the one thing she used to say 2 things, and the one thing was, tough times don't last, tough people do. And I always loved that quote. And the second thing she always said was, she's a big believer in everything happens for a reason. And in the moment, I'm depressed, mad, angry, frustrated, all the things you can think of. I'm like, stop saying that. Like, this didn't happen for a reason. Like, I was literally sitting at a beach doing everything right, and I got hurt. And, like, I don't deserve this. And she was just like, trust me, everything happens for a reason. And, like, now that I went through everything, I've learned so much appreciation for being able to play every day. Just grew in every way in life. Oh, yeah. And it got me here. So that's I love it here, and I'm way happier here. And not anything against Missouri, but like I'm way happier here, and I absolutely love it. So everything did happen for a reason.
Oh yeah, man, that's an awesome story, dude. Yeah. Because, I mean, I've experienced that the same way. Not exactly the same injury, but kind of just like when things happen, you're just like, why is this happening? Yeah. And you're just like, in the moment, it's like now we can look back at it and be like, thank God that happened, because like now I'm here, like where I am. But in the moment, it's like, wow, like this is like really like I could just be done. Like why is this happening to me? And then just things just don't feel like they're getting better. And like for me, it was like at UIC, and I tore my UCL. If I didn't, if that didn't happen, I'd probably not be at Kentucky right now. If you didn't tear your labrum, you probably wouldn't be at Kentucky right now. So it's really interesting to hear how like people get to where they are, and it's usually not a straight line. And that's what I kind of like preach a lot to a lot of the younger kids, because obviously like their parents have goals for them, and they're like, yeah, we want you to go UCLA or USC, like just get good grades and get strong, work hard, and you'll get there. It's like like you got to do those things, but it never like is a perfect path. And And as a person that knows that it's not, and it's like, you know, it could take you this way, but at the end, like, you just got to keep going and you'll get to where you want to go. So, I mean, being able to deal with failure and injury, like, that shows a lot about a person when they're able to, you know, really put their head down. It's awesome that you have a sister that went through all that, was able to be your backbone, which is like, it's very not very common for someone to have someone like that.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. But being able to just like stick to the plan, like, you did it, you know.
Yeah.
And you were telling me like me and Zach are in the hot tub, cold tub pretty much every day. So you were telling me like you would drive 6 or 4 hours to the guy in Missouri, right?
Yeah, there was a guy in St. Louis.
St. Louis,
yeah, Missouri, but St. Louis, and he was only like an hour and a half from Mizzou. So when I first had out of surgery, I went and saw him. My friend from Mizzou recommended him. He was from around that area and said he like works wonders. And he knew I was struggling mentally with the whole like recovery process. He's like, I just like truly believe like this guy has like a special way of like, even if he doesn't help you with your injury, just like the way he talks to you about the injury and stuff, it makes you like have an extra comfort feeling of like, okay, it's doable. I can get through this. And at that point, I was look for anything to help. Like even if it was just something mental, like I just needed something to help me and pull me up a little bit. And gave it a try and instantly loved them. So I went there for the rest of the year. And then after I decided to transfer, I obviously wasn't in Missouri anymore, and I'm from the Chicago area. And my mom, she's not a person I'm blessed to have, she would drive with me every single weekend to go see him once a week. 4 hours there. I'd see him for about an hour. It's usually a 20-minute session, but he would like block out an hour for me since he knew I was traveling so far, which is awesome. And I would go there for an hour and then get back in the car, 4 hours back home. I did that every single week with my mom, and it ended up being kind of like a fun little like memory looking back. That drives were a grind, but like spending 8 hours with my mom in the car, like I don't get to see her 8 hours anymore at all now that I'm in college. I'm lucky to see her for maybe a week and a Thanksgiving break, but then even then I'm off at the facilities training at home or something like that. So like, or she's working. So I still don't get to like spend a true 8 hours of just like sitting down and talking to my mom. So it was nice to have that also. So.
Yeah, I mean, being able to have those like moments with your parents, it's like it's truly a blessing. Like you don't really understand it. Like like me and my parents like I like to do things on my own. Yeah. And I mean, I drove out here by myself, but it's just hard to like let your parents in and like have a good conversation with them. So being able to have like 8 hours with your mom is like really special. Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people realize how like special that is when you don't really get to see them now. So so you talked about like, was this when you were going to this guy? Was this before you knew that you may never be able to pitch again, or was this? This
after. This is after. Yeah. I still had no idea at that point. Like I was going to him hoping like for something. Yeah. But I had a pretty good feeling once I started working with them, everything started feeling back to like as normal as it's going to get after having shoulder surgery. And I was like, okay, like this is really helping me, and I think there's a chance that if I continue to do this, like I can get back. Yeah. Yeah.
So how did you like, when you knew that you may never pitch again, like how did that like what did you do? I feel like it's interesting to know like what's the first thing. Like when you think you could you may never pitch again, which means you may never play baseball again. Yeah. And which you've been working your whole life for any other athlete. Like you're training your whole life, and that might be it for you. Like how did you feel about that?
At first, it kind of gets so much at once, you kind of can't comprehend what that means. Like, it would hit me sometimes. I was sitting there, and I was like, are you watching baseball? Or I remember, like, their season started again the next year, and I was watching it, and I was like, man, I would do anything to be back on that field. Like, I don't even care if I went out there and couldn't get an out. Yeah. Just the fact that I could go out there again would be all I could ask for right now. And it's just like, that's what I'm saying, like, you learn perspective. And I have a story last year. I got to start against LSU, and it went about as bad as it can go. And I remember I got back to the hotel, and obviously I was still frustrated and upset. Like before surgery, I would have been beside myself. Like, wow, how would I have thrown that bad? But then I had the back of my head, I was like, you know what? Like, literally a year ago to that day, you were on the couch saying, I would do anything to even be back out there, even if I couldn't get an out. And I got an out. So it's like, that's the perspective that I was talking about when I said I learned, because like, yeah, it was still a hard thing to swallow that I had a really bad outing. Yeah. But at the same time, it was like, how bad can I feel for myself? A year ago today, I didn't know if I was going to be out there ever again. And here I am pitching in a big game and like a cool atmosphere, like, yeah, that's about all I could say. Yeah.
I feel like perspective changes everything
Mm-hmm.
about life and baseball. The way you view things changes the way you play
Mm-hmm.
and like what you put into it.
Yeah.
Like for me, when I came here, like I'm in my fifth year. I took a gap year, so 6th year, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I've changed kind of my perspective of like, I may never play again after this.
Yeah.
So like, am I really gonna get frustrated after a bad at bat, like one
Yeah.
bad at bat? Like,
Yeah.
no, because I'm gonna look back and be like, even if I went 0 for the whole fall, at least that I know that I put in every ounce of
Yeah.
effort I did,
Yeah.
and I don't want to look back and be like, man, like I sucked and I didn't, I should have done this, should have done that. Like I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
And like we talked about quabs. And like it's kind of like silly to think about. It's like quabs, all right, whatever. Like why don't you just like hit bombs or whatever? But
Yeah.
it's like when you just think about getting a quality at bat. And for you guys, it's like a quality pitch. We talked about that a lot in our meetings. But like a quality at bat, and there's like 8 ways to get it. And it's just like when you think about just trying to get a quality at bat, it changes your whole at bat and how you approach it. And it's like you don't have to get a hit to get a quality at bat. So I'm just like, I'm just gonna go up there and like get the job done.
Yeah.
Whatever the job entails at that moment, just gonna get it done. If I
Yeah.
don't, I'm gonna do it the next time.
Yeah.
So change your perspective on like trying to get a hit, trying to hit a home run versus trying to help the team out. It really like has helped me like stay within myself when I
Yeah.
don't do it. Like I don't get pissed off like I used to. I don't like, slam my helmet like I used to. Like I'm kind of just like, all right, well we'll do it next time. Or
Yeah.
I have a job on defense, so you just got to like stay in perspective, like you said, like a year ago before that outing, you were sitting on the couch, I'd do anything.
Yeah.
And then like you see yourself not do well, and it's just like, man, like at least I'm here. Like
Yeah.
I could have never been playing again, So it's like cool to just be able to like realize that in the moment and take a deep breath. You're like, I am grateful.
Yeah.
So,
Or like
it's
how
cool.
I talk about here a lot, like worry about the controllables and don't worry about the non-controllables.
Yeah.
And that's like I feel it's one of those things like you can't control what happens
Oh yeah.
that's already passed. Like
Yeah.
that's the past. Like no matter what happened, like you said, like you punched out, have a really bad at bat, or for me, like I just walk and do them forward, like completely out of the zone pitches.
Yeah.
I can't control that anymore. That's over. The next thing I can do is try to get a double play ball and get that guy out, or try to strand him on first, second, or third, whatever it is. And it's just like making sure you control the controllables and don't worry about the things that you can't change anymore.
Yeah.
Just learn from them. Like
Yeah.
that's with outings from your previous at bats, your previous pitch, and stuff like that. That's something I still struggle with. I mean, I feel it's just baseball. Like
Yeah.
you throw an 0-2 slider and you leave it middle and it ends up getting hit 450, and it's like, I had him 0-2. What am I doing? And it's like, no, next time you get the situation, just execute and learn from the last time.
Yeah.
And it's just something you learn as you go, I feel like. And it's weird because everyone always tells you when you're younger to learn those things, and you like hear it and you just don't really fully comprehend it until you get older. Yeah. Like what?
And what do we say? Like loss, learning opportunity, stay strong.
Yeah.
Is that what-
That's what
I
losses
like
stand
that.
for.
So I mean, they're all learning opportunities at the end of the day. Like anytime I've looked back in my career and I've lost or I've failed, like I've learned from it. I'm not gonna lie, like you just learn from it. In the moment it sucks, but like it's always a learning opportunity. And like when you win, it's a learning opportunity too, because you find out what works. And when you do something that works, and the best players, they're not much different than, like, a lot of the best players aren't much different than what we are. Like we're in the best conference there is.
Yeah.
We're with the best players, but what the difference between the next level and us is they do it more consistently.
Yeah,
And they, they don't like fail as much as we. They don't have to learn from their mistakes as much as we do, but they still learn from their mistakes. They do it faster and less often. So I feel like that's the biggest difference. And like I was gonna say, like one of your outings, I think you gave up a 4 spot in the first.
Last one.
And you could look at that and be like, wow, that was horrible.
Yeah.
And like kind of just like shit the bed the next 2, 3, whatever innings you go.
Yeah.
But like when you give up a 4 spot and then your team comes out and scores 4 more, it's a 0-0 ball game.
Yeah.
Who cares about the 4 at that point? Like you just got a 0-0 ball game, you're going to shut out. If you were lights out for the next 5 innings, I would still be at first base like, all right, like, let's go. Like this guy, he figured, like he's he's locked in. Like, he flushed that first inning. Like, we all flushed it. We're going to score runs for this guy. Like, you just got to, even when you give up runs in the first or maybe even in the 6th inning when you're going 6 innings, your team still has the opportunity to, like, punch back.
Yeah.
And it's not over. It sucks, yeah, you give up 4 runs, but, like, at the end of the day, like, something could happen, one swing of the bat, and it's a different ball game.
Yeah.
So, perspective, right?
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
And so when you, like, talk to us about, like, how you decided you wanted to come to Kentucky and, like, what it was like being in the SEC. Like, obviously the Mizzou is in the SEC, but I feel like it's a little different than Kentucky and, like, their facilities and, like, what was it like being here for the first time?
Here for the first time. I just remember when I first talked to him on the phone, and it was, so I'll go backtrack a little bit on this. I ended up pitching on my 1-year anniversary of surgery for the first time. First time I'd seen a hitter, I hadn't even thrown a bullpen with a hitter on it. I'd probably thrown 3 bullpens up to that date. Like, I just didn't have catchers to catch me and stuff like that. So I got done playing on my 1-year anniversary, first live outing back, and I was like 91, 93, and I was going out there being like, I'd be happy with touching 88. Like,
Yeah.
And I remember I got the news the next day, and Missouri called me back and was like, hey, would you be interested in coming back now? And I was like, would love to come back, but I'm kind of on to, like, newer things. Like, I kind of just want to get a whole new start and a whole new vibe. And then Kentucky reached out, like, the next day and was like, kind of just, they were quick about the process. It was late, though. It was August. It was early August. And they're like, hey, we just had a guy that was a transfer who signed a free agent deal for the pro ball, so we got some money opening up. If you're like, would you want to come down for a visit? And I was like, absolutely. I want to be back in the SEC. Like, no, they're a big school, want to take an opportunity on me or a chance on me for money. A bunch of them were walk-ons because they're like, we saw what you did a freshman year, and like, we'd love to have you as a walk-on, but with your injury, we don't know if you're going to ever be back. So, like, we also can't give you money.
Yeah.
And Kentucky was the first big school, and I wanted to go back to the SEC for 2 reasons. I wanted to be in here out of high school. I wanted to be here after being in the SEC for 2 years, played for 1 year. And then also the opportunity to pitch against the old team. So that was a big deal, too, for me. But I remember the first few weeks I was here, it almost seemed like a dream. Like, it just doesn't seem real. Like, the facilities you walk in, you almost feel like you're in the big leagues. Like, our facilities are so nice. Yeah. And it's so well organized, everything here, which was also weird at first, how organized everything is. It's almost stressful that everything's organized. All you can ask for, like, my entire life, all I wanted was organization that, like, was organized as could be and knew what you were doing. And then I got here and it was organized, and I was like, oh, it's kind of more stressful. Like, now. But then after you adapt to it, it's awesome. That pressure
of, like, you have to get it done. Like, if you don't do it, it's like, oh, shoot. Like,
and on a certain time. Like, I used to get all my work done, but it wasn't really like, you would be here doing this at this time, here doing this time. It was like, we have practice for an hour, 2 hours, and whatever else you want to do, you're doing yourself. Yeah. And here it's like, no, you're doing it, and you're doing it as a team, and you're doing it at this time, which is awesome. It makes the team better, too, I think, culture.
Absolutely.
That's one of the biggest things I wanted in a school. When I hit the portal, I was like, I want to go to a school that has that culture, that family base, because I didn't have that since high school. My high school team was really close, and I was like that's what makes baseball fun. Yeah. Because when you have that, like, your friends on your team are almost like a family. When you show up to the park, and, like, that's your family. Absolutely. And I miss that, and that's what we have here, and I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome here. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more on that with the culture part. That was the biggest thing that I was looking for. Is the culture. It changes the way your team plays. And honestly, I truly believe in that. And so far, like, here with coach and how every team is going to talk about culture. Every team is going to preach culture. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, that's what you have to do. But here we're actually, like, about it. Like, we talk about it. We learn what it takes to be actually a family. And I feel like that's the biggest difference between most schools and across the country. Like, we actually do what it takes to become a family. And like you said, organization. Like, I mean, we're here early to hit, or you guys are here early to run, throw. And it's like, right now it's getting a little colder, a little chilly, and it's uncomfortable. And like, when am I ever gonna hit at 8:30 a.m. on the field, like in a game? But it's like, if I can, be competitive at 8:30 a.m., backspin balls in the gap, hit well, like different zones, I'm gonna be even better when it's, hot, 3 p.m., 5 p.m. So it's like, it's cool to have those, like, environments of, like, uncomfortableness and being able to like flourish and be competitive every single day. And I think that's like the biggest difference with where I was at. Like, we're competitive every single day.
Yeah.
And everybody knows about it in our infield group, outfield group, if you've made the standard or not. And like, I think it's cool because like, you don't just show up to the field and like, all right, I'm just gonna take BP, whatever, or I'm gonna just try to hit home runs today.
Yeah.
Like, you actually have to like.
There's a plan.
Yeah, it's a plan, and like if you don't like perform, like coaches know, everybody knows.
Yeah.
And it's like, dang.
I think they do a really good job of also like the balance of not being hard on you to the point where you're down yourself, but they're hard on you to the point where they're constantly pushing you to become better. And I feel like that was also hard for me at first. It's just like you think you had a really good day, and they tell you had a really good day, but then they're also like, but you could have done this better. Yeah. And at first you're just like, man, I really just not having a good day ever. Yeah. And then you kind of realize that, no, that's what makes teams elite, is that they can give you that feedback. We say feedback's breakfast champions. The feedback that you need to hear, and also the feedback that's good to hear. Yeah. And I think there's a really healthy balance our coaches give us with that stuff, which is nice.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think Ammo is literally my favorite hitting coach. Shout out Coach Ammo. I mean, he's awesome. Like, he's super like quiet. Like, he doesn't really like rah. He's not talking all the time. But when he says stuff, like like he knows what he's talking about. And like every day, like we'll just be like hitting, or like everybody had a good round today. He'll be like, hey, like you guys look good today, great job. And like if he was like just saying that all the time, even when I like wasn't doing well, like I'd just be like, all right, yeah, cool. Yeah. Whatever. But like when he says it, I'm like, thanks. Yeah. Damn, all right. Like he's like, he notices everything. He pays attention to everything. Like he's like, even when you don't think he's paying attention, like he's paying attention. Yeah. And like I think just him being like super like chill and like being so genuine is what makes him like stick out as a great hitting coach. And like his competitiveness about the hitting and like the different zones that we work on, like I mean that's just like next level. Yeah. Like, I've never done that before. And it's really helped me as a hitter. So I really like it.
I feel like you were saying like the laid back approach. I feel like it's so good with baseball, especially just because I think everyone's had a coach who's just constantly like barking, and it just makes you that antsy. Like, so you're at the plate and you feel like you have to get the job done. Yeah. Where like when you have that coach they got that good balance of relax, but he like also expects you to have do elite stuff. Yeah. It gives you that confidence of like all right, he believes in me. He's not antsy, so I believe in myself. If my coach believes in me, I'm going to believe in myself. But it's also like there's still that I have to get it done still. But if you don't get it done, there's not the back of your head of like, if I don't get it done, I'm going to get heroes for the next month. Yeah. It's like,
and it's also like what you're saying about that is like the quabs. What I'll bring back the quabs is like he's not just expecting me to get a hit. Like there's different ways to get a quab, and like even as easy as bunting and a guy moving from first to second is a quab, sacrifice bunt. Moving a guy from second to third with less than, I think it's 1 out or 2 outs. Yeah. And if I roll over to first base and the guy moves from second to third, that's a quality at bat because now he's 90 feet away. Yeah. Getting an RBI, and it could be a sac fly. Like, I mean, a weak sac fly, and he scores, like, quality at bat. Yeah. And even if I hit a ball, like, in the stats, if I hit a ball over 95 and it gets caught out, like, it's quality at bat because I hit it hard. Yeah. Even though in the stats it shows 0 for 1. Yeah. But, like, knowing that my coach is like, just keep doing that. And I'm just like, all right, like, it gives me confidence because, like, I hit it hard. Like, you know, some coaches like will get upset and be like, hey man, like, why were you trying to like get the ball in the air that time? Like, well, I was just trying to hit it hard. Like, guys that, you know, wherever, and I was just trying to do the job. And just knowing that like there's more than one way, and you know, to help the team gives you more confidence, and the coaches like know that, and they, you know, feed into that. It's just like quality at bat. And we had those quality at bat charts down in the where the cages are. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, some guys on there I feel like, you know, haven't got a lot of hits, but they have a lot of quality at bats. Yeah. And I feel like if you value that more than the hits, it's gonna help the team win more often. So it's pretty cool to have that. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Do you guys have anything like that for pitching, or?
Yeah, we have the first pitch strikes. We keep chart of the quality pitches, which quality pitch is not only strikes, it's anything that is going to make the hitter actually think, hey, that might be a strike. Hey, that might be a strike. Even if it's a ball, but it looks like a strike all the way and they lay off of it, that's still a quality pitch because you still made the hitter have to take that pitch seriously.
Yeah.
And it was never of like out of the hand, oh, that's a ball. I'm taking this pitch off. It's a ball. Which is nice because like sometimes you might only throw 50% strikes, but you still threw 80% quality pitches because you were close. You might have been a little too fine on 0-0s or 0-1s or 1-1s, and that's why your strikes weren't there. But you still were close and you're not far off, which is a good feedback to have. Because if you're just looking at strikes, like you might not get the feedback you need, and you get 50% strikes, you're going to think, oh, I'm far off from where I need to be. And then you look at quality pitches, and it's like, no, you're not. You're just being a little too fine in certain counts, and you're still throwing really good stuff. You just don't need to be that fine in that count.
Yeah.
Where you're just a little bit off, and you realize that. And then there's the first pitch strikes, which is obviously just first pitch strike. Yeah. And the other one is head and count, which is most people think it's like if you have a 3-2 count and you foul four balls off. Well, you're not heading the count because it's 3-2, but no, you threw more strikes than balls. That's all it is. If you're keeping count, did you throw more strikes than balls in that at bat? Yeah. And that's the other thing we really calculate.
Yeah. The quality pitch is I feel like a huge thing, especially when you break it down and you go over like in video review and before weights, like today, like tunneling. I feel is a big thing. I've noticed when coach kind of like shows like a pitch and then the next pitch like gets the guy. It's well, like his fastball was riding up in the zone and like he was gonna swing, but like he took it at the end of the day. But he like was ready to hit, and so when you throw maybe a curveball up in the zone and it lands in, he's like, oh shoot, like just like changing the eye level can really change the at bat for a hitter because like a lot of you guys like have some ride on your ball or like some two seam, and maybe like the two seam, catches a corner, and then you throw that two seam again, and it's a changeup, and I'm swinging. I'm like, oh shoot, like, oh damn, that's nasty. Yeah. And you got a nasty changeup too. Yeah, appreciate it. And you got a hammer and a good curveball too.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah. So I mean, being able to like understand the quality pitches, I think changes how a pitcher approaches like each batter.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if he's just trying to like strike him out, which obviously you want to strike out a guy, but like. He approaches like, all right, I'm just going to give the best quality pitches I can. I guarantee you'll have a better chance of getting him out than if you're trying to just throw as hard as you can. So all those, young high school guys, like, just throw strikes, man. Like, throw strikes and you will get out.
Yeah.
I promise you.
Yeah, the other thing we also calculate is on and off in 3 pitches. Like, he's big on wanting us to get at-bats done in 3 pitches or less. And there's 2 things to that. The number one thing is if you're a starter, you might face a guy 3 times. So if you throw a 7-pitch, 8-pitch at bat the first AB, he's seen 8 pitches of yours. So he's probably seen your fastball 4 times, maybe your changeup once and your slider 3 times, or whatever it is, where it's like if you can get a guy out in 3 pitches in his first at bat, well, the next time he sees you, he really hasn't seen much. Yeah. You can completely pitch him differently. He hasn't seen your slider, maybe he hasn't seen your changeup, or he hasn't seen you like try to go fastball in. And then there's also the other side of it is if you're also trying to start, like you're trying to give innings, like you're trying to give 4, 5, 6 innings as a starter. So it's like if you can get on and off in 3, it's going to keep your pitch count down. You can go further into games, which helps your bullpen if they are beat up that day. They're not beat up, but tired, like gives them another day of rest. Or it just, I feel like starters who can give you that many innings, it gives you that like a better chance to win. Like every time you see a starter go 5, 6 innings, I feel like majority of the time you're going to win that game. Unless you're in like a dogfight, like a Friday night, it's usually a 2-1 game, 1-0 game, 3-2 game. But yeah, on and off for 3 is the other thing to calculate.
Yeah. That's, good stuff. Just being able to have that on the pitching side and the hitting side here is just another step that Kentucky's just different. Yeah. So, walk us through a little bit about what the Kentucky home field environment is like on a Friday night.
The atmosphere,
yeah.
Earlier in the year, we didn't get, we had a good crowd. We'd get probably 2,000 fans, I'd say.
So you say we had a good crowd, 2,000. Like we at SC, I think against UCLA, we had 1,500 fans, 1,800, and that was packed. Yeah. That's everybody came. It looked like. So you're saying yeah, I was oh man, maybe 2,000. Yeah. That's crazy.
Well, it's cold out, so that keeps people away and stuff. But later in the year when we started winning, we started playing really good baseball. We were fundamentally good. pitchers filled the zone with stuff. Hitters just like constant, relentless, good at bats. Like played really good baseball. Started winning because of that, and we started packing the crowd a little more, and that was really fun. It was loud. We had Ryan Waldschmidt. His walk-up song was like I don't even know what type of song. It was like la la la. And everyone would like go with their hands like this and stuff. And by the end of the year, when we had got bigger crowds, the whole crowd would do it to it, and it was sweet. I remember there's a picture in the regional of him where I don't know if he called timeout, pitcher's timeout, or what it was, and he's walking away, staring down the pitcher, and the whole crowd behind him has their arms up, going like this. To
Oh, that's
sweet.
so tough.
Yeah. So when Big Blue Nation comes out, it's pretty sweet.
Oh man, I'm so excited. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I've been like itching for.
Yeah.
It's like not even just a big crowd, but a crowd that's interactive.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the difference is like you can have like people show up and it's like, oh yeah, like there's a lot of people, but then when it's like, everybody's like into it, it's a completely different environment.
Yeah.
And like that's exactly what I wanted. When I came here, I was like, I want to be a part of like a super regional.
Yeah.
And like we have a crowd going like that, sending us to Omaha.
Yeah.
Like that's what I envision. And so I mean that's just awesome. That's what it is here.
Yeah.
And you guys came off a 40-win season, right?
Yeah.
40 win. So I'm sure we'll just probably have about like 5,000 people. Nothing big. Really cool, yeah. But I mean, this place is amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, we're just in here in the Lexus Lounge, and like being able to shoot a podcast in here is like, cool. Like you can go anywhere in this place, and it's like a cool view.
Yeah, we were literally just talking about I wish we could use this area more because it's gorgeous. There's
really cool, yeah.
10 flat screen TVs up here with a balcony. It looks over our beautiful field and stuff, and it's like, and then they got like a bar here. It's like, but there's so much.
There's so much.
There's so much that just like we don't use it that much. Our players at least. In season, like the fans are up here, and so I'm pretty sure this is where our parents and our friends and stuff like that, when we give them tickets, they're behind our dugout, and if they want, they can get upgraded up in here. Yeah, so like in the cold, they got heaters over there, so like in the cold, they can go outside and still watch with heaters. That way they're not in 25-degree weather and they're freezing. They can go up there, which is nice.
That's really cool, actually. I'll have to tell my friends and family about that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I just have so much appreciation for this because I was a walk-on at SC, and I just like I thought that was gonna be like the last place I was at, and like I was happy, I loved it there. But then being able to like come to a place like this, like it's just like different, like the SEC, and like they have the slogan of "It just means more."
It's
like,
corny.
I was just like, it's corny. You're like, what? Like, what does that even mean? And then like now that I'm here for like 3 months, I'm like, hey, it just means more, man.
Yeah, you're getting catered food every single day. You're like, whoa.
I don't even know how to explain it. It just means more. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But we talked about all your, your journey from labrum surgery, and now you're here at Kentucky. So it's awesome to have you here, man. And I'm happy to be here and have met you. So it's been awesome talking. Appreciate you coming on, bro.
Too, man.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Stay tuned for the next Wildcat. Stay tuned. Let's go. Hell yeah, dude. That was awesome.
That was money.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Just because we're not alone, you let me go just to watch me discern. Just because it